Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
My name's Adelle Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 321 of Legally Clueless, and this is what's coming up.
Our teachers went for a team building exercise. So they were out of school, and I think we only had like 2 members of staff. On this particular day, I was having some dreams, some very weird dreams. Most of them, it was in different scenarios, but one thing that stood out is it's maybe in an open ground somewhere. My mom has brought me, we're walking maybe in an open ground. She's bringing me to the center and then she's walking away. Or maybe in a different scenario, she's taking me to a building and she's walking away. And I'm calling her, I'm like, come back for me, let's go together. And she's not even turning. So we walk into this room and then we had some sort of meeting. That's when my dad was given the opportunity and he broke the news. And he was like, our mom had passed away on 1st of May.
That is Kathryn's story. We're going to get to it in a bit. Truly hope you're doing great. If you're an OG member, thank you so much for rocking with the podcast. If this is your first time ever listening to the podcast, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're all about meeting our best selves here, storytelling, and just keeping it 100% real. Episodes like this go out every single Monday. Make sure you officially join our family. That's on our website, legallycluelessafrica.com. There's a link in the show notes. And make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a couple of shows going on there. Our latest one called For Mannerless Women is pretty dope. You should check it out. I'll tell you a bit about it in a bit. And on social media, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Legally Clueless Africa. All of those links are in the show notes. Now, a few months ago, I had just listened to an incredible woman on a podcast who had really inspired me. Her name is Alua, and she's a death doula. I had never heard of such a thing in my life. And so I was intrigued listening to her story. And then by the end of it, I was inspired. One of the things that stood out for me is she said that she spent every birthday preparing for her death by auditing her life. And I think I was listening to this a few weeks to my birthday and I was like, do I want to stop that? Are we not going to do it? But I just thought it was so powerful to look at death as this thing that can teach you so much about life. I have always been intrigued by death, by its finality, by its assuredness, and by its mystery. So in my poetry, I have written a lot about death because I know I'll die, but I don't know how and I don't know when. Anyway, after listening to this death doula called Alua, I posted about her on my Instagram page, and then I got a DM from a Kenyan death doula. So in my bid to try and get as many women to live their most authentic life, I think conversations on death can be very inspiring. What is a death doula?
The way we have a birth doula, it helps
Bring life.
A death doula helps someone as they transition out of life. So it's just someone who comes in and allows you to be present in whatever it is that's happening, whether it's the denial, whatever emotion it is that's happening for you as someone is dying or someone has died. So I wouldn't limit it to funeral planning. It goes way beyond that. People are scared to do it because it's like if I'm actively planning for my death, then I'm calling death upon myself. And I was having this discussion with my mom. She's like, why you do things? Because sometimes you don't want therapy.
Yeah.
You just want to sit in a space and say,
You can say it.
what the is going?
Yeah.
What the is this?
Yeah. So you can watch the full episode of my conversation with Joy, who is a Kenyan death doula, on For Mannerless Women on our YouTube channel, and it's our brand new show. Another thing I want to give you a heads up about is our wellness talk that's coming up. If you do not know, this is something we do here. We get African experts, preferably African women, to teach us about things that can make us mentally, physically, and financially well. And so our next wellness talk is going to have the career whisperer helping us unlock our career success. It's a virtual talk, meaning wherever you're in the world, you can join in. It is this Saturday, the 26th of April at 10 a.m. East African time. And tickets, super subsidized. They are only 1,000 shillings. So you can grab your tickets right now on our website on Hustle Sasa or click the link in the show notes. And the heads up I need to give you is our ticket portal for this wellness talk closes this Thursday on the 24th at 10 a.m. So you have until Thursday the 24th, 10 a.m. to grab your tickets. In the past, whenever we've closed our portal, there are quite a few people who have DM'd to be like, I'm trying to get my ticket. No. To allow us to be able to give you all the information you need before the wellness talk, we have to close the portal early. All right, let's get to the story in this episode. We listened to Kathryn's story of experiencing death and the grief it brings twice in a 2-year span. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
My name is Kathryn. I was born in Nakuru County. I was born to a man and a woman, namely Benjamin and Mary. I had a sibling, a sister. So we were a family of 4. I was raised in a lecture. Okay, my parents are lecturers. So I was raised with also other lecturers' kids. So we were like a community. You know, our parents are doing the same job and the kids are studying in the same school. We were doing everything together literally because there was a school right there. There was a community, a church. It was a family in short. So growing up, I had like an amazing childhood. Family was around me. My parents are very loving people. My dad and my mom, very supportive, and my sister was the best person. Growing up, I remember looking at it as an adult right now, and comparing my childhood and the people around me, I'd say I had a very pleasant childhood because I had a great community, so many friends, and very supportive parents. We had family around every weekend. We had neighborhood dinners and lunches. We'd organize parties. As you know, our parents now, the lecturers and their families would organize parties and go and have a picnic somewhere. So yeah, that was amazing. So around 2013, we moved from the university was in a small town within Nakuru. It's called Egerton. We moved from Egerton and moved to Nakuru town or Nakuru city. We moved to our own place. I was distant from my childhood friends, so I had to come and start I had to come and start afresh with new friends, getting to know the neighbors all over again. It wasn't bad, it was change, and change is always good. Now, this brought my family unit closer because my parents are not very outgoing. I'd say they're kind of introverts. My mom was an introvert. My dad was kind of an extrovert, but he was not also very outgoing. He's very extroverted around the people around him, but not very much outside. And my sister was an introvert. So this brought our family unit closer. We'd spend Christmas together, not like how it was in the past with our neighbors. So it brought us closer, I'd say. Time went by. Around 2016, my mom fell sick. It started as onset signs of cancer. And initially we didn't think it was cancer, or I'd say the doctors didn't think it was cancer. We thought it was, like lymphoma or a swelling. So it's not much of a diagnosis. It was much of, it might be this. We're not sure. So we'd request if she'd get further treatment outside the country. So I was a child in 2016. I think I was around 13 years. I was in class 7. I'm almost doing my national exams. So this was late 2016. So I remember particularly I was not aware of my mom's ailments. There was a time we had like a half-term break. My dad came to pick me up and my sister from school, and when we were in the car, he was like, your mom is sick, but it's not that serious. It's not very serious. It's just like an ailment, but she'll be fine. So we've taken her to hospital, but she's getting better. She's at home recuperating. So you guys, please be supportive. Please don't show it to her that she's sick. So that statement stayed with me because I love my mom. Everybody loves their mom, but my mom was my best friend. So I was wondering, how comes this pillar of strength that I've always known is sick? So these are the questions I was asking myself on our way home. So on getting home, like I always do, and as any child would do, when we got home, the first thing I did is just rushed to my mom's room, and I remember I didn't knock. So not knocking, I walked in, and she was looking at herself on the mirror.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And she had like a huge bandage on her side. It's one thing I didn't know that I had the ability to process the people around me getting sick. Normally, you're used to seeing someone get a cold, but the minute you see someone you love with a bandage is kind of serious. Yeah, when you look at it was a huge bandage, not like a burn or something, or it was a huge bandage on the side, especially on the tummy area. So on seeing that, and it's like she was changing her bandages, so I kind of saw some of the blood and what was coming out. So, and I think she was high on the drugs that she was on for the pain, so she couldn't even like try and hide the scar. She was also shocked because she was not expecting anyone to just like walk into the room. She was expecting, actually there was nobody in the house, so she didn't even know you were even there. So I remember after I saw her, I just broke down crying. And my sister walked in. As I was the first one to get into the room, my sister walked in and she saw that and she saw me crying and she also started crying. And then my dad took us out and he was like, "Are you guys crying? I thought we talked about this. Your mom is sick, but she's not that sick. It's not good to show this kind of emotion, this heavy emotion to someone who's sick, as it's kind of crushes their soul and their spirit. They tend to think like the situation is dire. Over the course of the days when I had that half-term break, a half-term break is normally like 7 days a week. So in the course of that break, I noticed some things were different. So I noticed my mom's diet had changed. Suddenly she was not taking milk. If the family was having like a certain meal, she was going to take something different. And her appetite was terrible. Like she was literally not eating. So this on a 13-year-old brain is very tough, because you're used to seeing your parents being pillars of strength. So this was kind of traumatic. So over the course of the days, we'd have relatives come in, they're visiting, they're bringing fruits, as it's per African culture. They're coming to, check on her. They're like, oh, like I'd over here, because they'd be like, go play or something. Huh? We just give them that privacy. But I'd overhear, as I was a very cheeky child, so I'd overhear what they would say, and I think I overheard my mom saying she thinks it's cancer. So this was me overhearing. It was not somebody who had sat me down and telling me this. So it was very rough information. You always hear very bad things about cancer. It's never anything good. I think the only good thing about cancer is when you beat it. On hearing she has cancer, I remember I couldn't even tell my sisters. She's younger than me. Like that would be transferring this heavy information to someone who's younger than you and maybe doesn't even have the resources to process it as I have, which is also not good. I think I sat my dad down later that evening and I was like, "Oh, I had mom saying she has cancer." And my dad was like, "No, this is a parent trying to shield their child from this heavy information." As I look at it right now, this was my dad trying to protect me. He was not also in the right capacity, as maybe he was even denying it in his own mind that his wife had cancer. I asked my dad was like, it's not cancer. She just has some lumps, but she's going to get it checked in India. So soon after, we're still in the course of the holiday, I see the processes. There's a medical visa that is getting processed. She's taking passport photos, but she's weak. She can't even, stand to take the picture to be taken when she's seated. So I remember we were going back to school around Friday, and my mom was to go to India on Monday. So I remember when I was saying goodbye, that was the longest hug I've ever given my mom. Yeah, that was the longest hug I've ever given my mom. And I felt like it was coming from a point of my heart it was struggling to let her go because I didn't know what would happen, or maybe it was my own, just like a out of world experience, or something was trying to tell me that I might probably not see her again. So it was a very long hug. And as my mom was very optimistic, so she was like, I'm coming back. Everybody was saying she's coming back. So it was not coming from a point of, she's probably going and, she's not coming back or anything like that. So on that happening, we were taking to school, me and my sister, we were dropped off and my dad went back home. And now the processes, took place. And with a half term, it means you're almost coming to an end of the semester. I think it was like a month or something, and then we were back home now for the December holiday. It was the longest December holiday, and my dear, December is a festive season. So when you're back, kids expect the complete family unit, be visiting families and stuff. And this time my mom was like a major part of it was not there. So Christmas was really bad. Christmas was terrible. What I'd remember is we just sat home. I felt we were also trying to console ourselves. Like, it wouldn't be fair to have as much fun and the mom of the family is sick. She's in India, she's sick. So soon after, in the course of that holiday, pictures were being sent around. So we'd ask for photos like, oh, I'd like to see mom. And in between, we'd call her every single day. Pictures would be sent. You're looking at these pictures and you see someone who was full of life is a skeleton of themselves. Cancer does things. It sucks life out of you. It's very painful to watch someone you love not look like themselves, not talk like themselves. So even on calls, she could not even stay on a call for 5 minutes was long enough. You'd talk about everything in 5 minutes, but she'd be struggling. Actually, she went with a relative, so this relative would be telling us, just make the call short because she's really weak. So we'd talk, and then my mom is trying to surpass the 5 minutes point. She's trying to ask us if we finished our, holiday assignments. What are we doing? Are we having fun? Are we eating properly? Are we, is everything okay? Is her home how it used to be? So with this happening, you could even feel it in her voice, like she's actually struggling. She'd really apologize, like, I'm so sorry, but I'm so tired. I really want to rest. I came out of, I had some treatment, and she never used to tell us the exact name of treatments because, it's heavy. It's heavy to tell a 13-year-old girl and an 11-year-old girl you're getting chemotherapy. It's very hard. Yeah, you can't say that to a child. So she tells us, I'm really tired. Can we talk tomorrow? Early in the morning, I'll call you guys. So that went by. My mom stayed in past the December holiday, went back to school in January. She was still there, January, February, till around April to be specific. We had another break. So on April, this is normally a 1-month break. So as I said, it's just like the December holiday, we're just on call. And when the photos are being sent, she's becoming more and more, she's not as healthy as she was. And you can see it. But people around you are telling you, she's getting better. She's responding really well to treatments. Things are looking good. And even her on the phone, because of the optimism, because you can't bring your kids down, you can't crush your kids' spirits. She'd be like, I'm coming home soon. What do you guys want? What do you guys want from this side? And as a child, you're there, you're asking for things. You're like, Mom, bring me this. But most of all, I want to see you home. I can't even process how I said that as a 13-year-old child. I want to see you home. I think it was the aspect of not seeing your mom for 6 months. 6 months is almost half a year. We'd always say this on call. So later, and as time went by, I think it was on the 30th of April, we had visitors at home. My dad was always on call with the relative who's in India. So particularly, these visitors, they were different visitors, not the normal visitors, it's just chit-chat and all. These were some of our family's closest friends, and they had come for the sole purpose to pray. So we were not informed. So we are shocked. People never come home to pray. Normally, we just pray over the phone or we meet in church, but having people come home to pray, it was an odd thing. It was an odd thing. And these prayers were quite long. It's not like the quick short prayers, and there was even a sermon, and I remember I was forced to sit through that. So as I was seated through this sermon, it was mostly about strength, and I was wondering, who needs this strength? Why are they talking about strength? Later, my dad was constantly on call. In between, he'd walk out, he'd pick the call, and I was wondering what's going on. So later, around midnight, we went to sleep around midnight. The guest left at exactly midnight. The guests had left. My dad had bid them goodbye, then he went to his room. And then my sister and I are left in the sitting room, and we were wondering, why is dad not coming to say goodnight to us? He just disappeared. And that's when the auntie at home, our house help, was like, you guys go to sleep, your dad is tired. So he went to sleep. The next day, it was on 1st of May. And on 1st of May, we were supposed to go back to school. My dad handled everything as meticulously as he always does. He's amazing. We left for school, but I remember particularly we went out before reporting to school. We were taken, to see some sights and stuff, and then we came back. We got ready for school, and then we were dropped off at school. I remember telling my dad, "Can I please talk to mom? We have not talked today. Can I please talk to her? We're going back to school." And in school, I could not talk to him. It was really hard. My teacher in school was not a fan of making international calls because it was on his pocket, and yet he was like, I don't even understand why, with all expenses catered for, but it's okay. I knew I was not going to talk to my mom for almost close to 1.5 months. So I was like, please, can I please talk to her? And then my dad called my relative who was in India with my mom and was like, can you please talk to her and tell her why the mom cannot talk right now? So she was like, oh, hi, right now I'm not at the hospital. I went for some errands. I'm somewhere in Delhi. I'm not in the hospital, but the minute I get to the hospital, I'll make sure we'll call through your teacher and you'll talk to your mom. So me and my sister are contented. We're like, yeah, at least you're getting that call. So my dad left. In between, that week was very weird. It was a very weird week. So I remember the Saturday of the same week, our teachers went for a team building exercise. So they were out of school, and I think we only had two members of staff. On this particular day, my heart was very discontented. So I was having dreams. It's very interesting. I was having some very weird dreams. Most of them, it was in different scenarios, but one thing that stood out is it's maybe in an open ground somewhere. My mom has brought me, we're walking maybe in an open ground. She's bringing me to the center and then she's walking away. Or maybe in a different scenario, she's taking me to a building and she's walking away. And I keep, I'm calling her, I'm like, come back for me. Let's go together. And she's not even turning. It was very weird. And I remember telling my sister, we were in the same boarding school, and she was like, I'm getting weird dreams, extremely weird. But now for me, it's maybe now hers was centered around school. She'd be sleeping and she'd be seeing herself asleep, and she's seeing our mom walking. She's in the dormitory, but she's not getting close to her. Our mom is just walking away. So I remember we were talking on the same Saturday, and then suddenly out of nowhere, some girl just came, and then she was like, oh, your dad is in school. You were called to the staff room, and my dad was there, and he came with people we didn't know. We were wondering, okay, what's going on? And I remember I was telling my sister, they've come for us. They actually knew today was a free day, so we could actually go home. Our mom is back. We could actually go home, see her, stay over the weekend, and then be back on Monday because our school would allow such things. So on that happening, on seeing our dad, and me and my sister, we were really excited. So we walk into this room, and then we had some sort of meeting. That's when my dad was given the opportunity, and he broke the news. And he was like, our mom had passed away on 1st of May. So that was an entire week. This was heavy. The reaction was really heavy. How you'd expect a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old to process the news of their mother's death. Immediately, they made arrangements and we went home. On getting home, we found now this is where I really...
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Love the aspect of the African culture on how people were at home. We got home, people were waiting for us. Aunties were there. We had cousins, uncles, people from the church, people you've never met, neighbors. Everybody was there. In between, I'd say a recap of in between, it's us trying to figure out how to maneuver, how to get back on our feet after our mom is lost. We've lost our mom. It's us trying to, get back into schedule. My dad is going back to work. We have female relatives trying to come in and trying to support us in the female, like we need a female role model. So my aunties really played part. It was good. We got immense support, and I'd say I was left, I was in shock. I was in shock because she had passed away in 2017 when I was about to sit for my national exam. So I had to numb it out. That's one thing you don't do in grief. You don't numb out the emotions. So I remember I was mostly focused on, it was for a good cause because for me, I used it as motivation. I was like, I'd at least want to do really well so that wherever she is, she's proud of me. So I remember I put, my mind into my books, and I was I was pretty numb. On the other side, my sister was doing the best she could. She had always been a sick child. We were always in and out of hospital, even when my mom was alive. Like, ever since I met her, from the day she was born, it was something that was there, unfortunately. We thought it was just like her body doing what it always does. Like, she was just getting sick as per normal. But now it turns out it was as a result of all the accumulated, her entire existence of her being sick. She had a condition, an unknown condition. It got really worse late 2017 and early 2018. We were always in and out of hospital. My dad is amazing. I don't think at any point my sister, throughout when she was sick, throughout her ailment, didn't get the support she needed from her dad. My dad was always there. He was sleeping in hospital. My dad was staying up at night. In the past, it was my mom who was doing the work. Like, they were a team. But now it's very odd to hear an African dad do that. So that's why I'm really grateful. Yeah, my dad would come in, sleep with my sister, take her to hospital, and he's trying to multitask work. So, and suddenly, my really amazing cousin stepped in and, would take turns. She was even a boarder in primary school, but she had to become a day scholar because her condition could not fit her being in, a boarding school environment, because she had to be in and out of the doctor's office. As time went by, her body started giving up. In December 13th, yeah. I think before December, around November, she got a seizure. And it's like she went brain dead. And on getting the seizure, this is in a hospital in Nakuru, so she had to be transferred to Nairobi. And in Nairobi, she was admitted to Nairobi Women's in the ICU. This time, you're still trying to process your mother's death, and your sister is sick. But at that time, I think she was really sick to a point that it was I don't say it was kind of obvious, but people are preparing for the worst. We'd have family around. People don't tell you, but it got to a point where I'd try, when my relatives are around, even when my dad is around, my dad was always giving me hope. But I had a particular relative. I asked her, like, what do you think? Because at times when I was younger, when I'd have like very heavy situations, I'd really try not to focus on what I'm thinking. I try to get on people's perspectives, and then maybe I can build on that. So I was like, what do you actually think? Like, do you think she's okay? And she said, we hope for the best. And that was heavy, because hoping for the best means there's a probability of something going wrong. So that was heavy. And on December 13th, I lost my sister. She passed away. So I was in form 1, which is like 9th grade. So this is like 2 consecutive years of loss. and you've not passed the first one, and you're not also past the second one. The second one has just happened, so it's consecutive. You've not grieved the first one, now you have to grieve another person, and this is grief within the family unit, and this is heavy. Grief within the family unit is heavy because these are the people you've always known. Especially for a parent, it's very hard because I had this somewhere, I can't recall, but someone said when you lose a parent, it's like somebody pulled the rug under you and you're now on the floor, because this is someone you found this person on earth. Like, this is the person who brought you here, and suddenly they're not here, and maybe you had built some sort of dependence. As a child ought to. Nobody ever sits down and imagines their life without their parents. So for me, in terms of I processed these two losses very differently. For me, I'm speaking as a young child, trying to process now my mother's loss. I remember initially I'd not experienced any sort of loss. Not a friend, not even people around me. Nobody within my community growing up had passed away. So I experienced loss one-to-one with my mom. Like, this was the first time I was even... We never used to talk about grief and death. Like, I think we'd hear about those things, but parents tend to shield their kids from such things at that tender age. It was a very foreign subject. So I remember thinking, particularly on my mom, like, I'd never imagined people don't lose their mothers. Like, as a child, I was thinking, people don't lose their mothers. Like, moms are meant to last forever. What do you mean? This is my source of life. Like, this is how I was processing it. Kids don't lose their moms. Moms are to live forever. Moms are the source of life. Like, I'm trying to put two and two together. It's not making sense. And on my sister's perspective, siblings do life together. Siblings get to see each other age. Siblings are the ones who later on, together as a unit, it doesn't make sense. I don't think it sounds dark, but siblings are the ones who bid their parents goodbye when they're together. Like, when their parents are older, that's when siblings are together. They're now burying their parents. And also, it's very weird. Yeah, it's very weird. Kids also don't bury their... It was very weird. It was very weird. Sorry. It was very weird. I couldn't imagine it. So it was very foreign to my very young brain. As time went by, this was me in Form 1. So I was joining Form 2 in 2019. So if I think about high school right now, especially, I think throughout my high school period, I was winging it. I was freestyling. I didn't even think I even had a sense of self. I felt like nothing mattered. It got to a point where I let my grief consume me. I think because it happened really fast, and there's no handbook to grief. There's no book you can sit down and read. Also, this is the first step. So what should I do? When I'm grieving my sister or my mom, like, I should follow these steps. It happens uniquely. That's why I also don't really understand or support the idea of stages of grief, because people handle things differently. And in the stages of grief, I think it starts with denial, then acceptance, then something else. But there are people who handle grief differently. Some people go directly to acceptance and then they deny later. They accept it at the moment, yes, they've passed away, and suddenly you go back to denial in between, because human beings are uniquely different. I feel it's unfair to put people in a box, because based on experiences, based on, the society and what these people have experienced, they tend to handle their grief differently. So throughout high school, I was winging it. I was just existing, I'd say. It was really dark. High school was really dark, filled with a lot of tears. At the same time, I'm in a boarding school in high school, and I only get to see my dad on holidays. He's trying the best he can, as he's also managing his grief. This man has lost his wife and his child, but he did the most for me. He has always done the most for me, because I remember I went for counseling and therapy differently. When you think you're almost cracking the code, maybe you're not. For me personally, it didn't work out that way. Maybe some people actually crack the code and they work through it effectively, but personally it wasn't working for me. And I was also trying to be strong for the people around me. And trying to be strong for the people around you is a concept that society has built into the grieving mind. Because I remember when I lost my mom and my sister, when I lost my mom, people around me, with all good intentions, you always hear these things. I think especially in African culture, you're told, please be strong. Please be strong. Be strong for your dad. Be strong for your sister. Be strong for us. When you see you strong, you're also given hope. And then now on my sister's funeral, now it was like, you're really, really strong. I don't even know how I would have handled this situation. And people are like, you need to be very strong for the people around you. And this time I find it, I don't know how to feel when people say this, when people tell you that the person who has passed away wouldn't have wanted you to mourn this long. Some people take it the right way. It makes sense for some people, because I'm also very sure nobody wants to see the people they love in sadness, even wherever they are, even though they've passed away, they don't want to see the people they love in sadness. But at the same time, how I tend to process it, where I don't really understand it, is because, what do you mean? Someone that I've loved, someone that I've experienced for a very long time. What are you trying to say? How do you expect me to be strong, to be this pillar of strength, and yet something really that you're considering unfair at that particular moment has just happened? I don't think death is fair. I don't think it's fair for anybody, because we never get enough time with each other, with the people we love. Especially, we might say, if you give me like 5 extra more years, if this was me negotiating with, I'd say, the angel of death, trying to tell the angel of death, please give me 5 extra years, bond really with my mom and my sister, and they give me 5 extra years, I would still ask for another extra years, because nobody is willing to let the person they love go. I'm going back to during the funeral time, when people are telling you to be strong, be this pillar of strength. It's because I feel like society has not really... You're only allowed to grieve and cry when you got the news. Maybe in the course of that week, you can cry publicly. People can understand why you're crying. I feel it's unfair. It's because it's unfair to tell somebody who's grieving to not be vulnerable. Now, how I tend to look at it is, when somebody passes away, somebody that you really, really loved, and I feel like we tend to love people differently. It's really not fair to give them a time span of grieving, saying that you're only allowed to, cry for this certain period of time so that you can get over it. And it's because also society is viewing grieving people as weakness. Because when you're seen...
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Grieving. Now, let me talk about, forget the initial, when the death has just occurred. Let's give it a few years or months. People expect you to be over it. It would be really weird to sit down with someone and then telling that person, I'm not over my mom who died like 5 years ago. This person would be like, wait, what? It's how society is right now. And it's very young. People find it really uncomfortable to talk about death and grieving. It's very uncomfortable. When you bring up the topic of death, people just go into awkward silence, or people walk out, or people don't like expressing their emotions. And grief is something that happens to us. Some of us sooner or later. Some of us it happened earlier, and some of us it happens way later. And that's why I don't feel like there's an exact timeline to telling someone, you should only grieve for, I expect you to be over it. Like, what do you mean? You're still crying 5 years later. It's not even a matter of crying. Even some people in society are even making the fact that you talk about them a very wrong thing. In the rural areas, based on my experience, you talk about, if something reminds you of a deceased loved one. Like, I remember I'd look at something and I'm like, oh my God, my sister would have loved that. Like, she really loved those kind of shoes, or she liked this particular flower. And somebody would be like, please don't talk about that. It's like you're killing the mood. And mind you, it's a very positive statement. You're just trying to relate something this person loved to them. I don't feel there's anything wrong with such a statement. It's because people have put such a stigma around grief it's now something that it's a mood killer. In short, it's a mood killer. It annoys people because what do you mean? You're trying to ruin our mood talking about maybe they even liked that person, but I tend to blame how things have happened historically. I used to feel this is coming out if such, because I tend to look at people nowadays, people walking on the street. This person is putting such a brave face on, and probably people are facing a lot of things, and this is where the aspect of grace tends to come up. You look at people out here, people are putting such a brave face, but behind closed doors, there's a lot of sadness. And I feel like grief is one of them, and people tend to address mental health issues, and that is really okay. They're also like huge factors, but grief is also one of the factors. But because people tend to shun it in a way that, you know, it's something that you should be over. You should get over it. Like it happens. Yes, it happens. But this is someone you loved. This is someone you loved. And someone said the price of love is grief. Because the fact that even in day-to-day relationships, be it friendships, be romantic relationships, that's why we have that period. If it doesn't work out, we have that heartbreak period. Because when you're heartbroken, it's a clear sign you loved that person. You really cared about that person. So why is it different when it comes to grief? Why is it different when it comes to when somebody is... So you don't get to see this person on a daily. And I feel like the terms of grief are harsher. You don't get to see them. You get to see your ex walking around in the city. And you're like, okay, I love this person, but it's over. But with grief, you don't get to see this person on a daily. This person becomes a memory. It's very weird with grief, because at times very weird things tend to happen. Because right now, I think if someone plays like a video and maybe my sister or my mom is talking, I'd recognize it. But in my mind right now, I don't think, if I try to play that voice as someone who is someone I can talk to right now, I can clearly remember their voice. But something has to trigger me to remember, because with time, maybe it only affects me, but I've had friends that I talk to who have experienced grief, and they tend to tell me, I feel like I've even forgotten my mom's smell. I'm forgetting how her face structure was like. I'm forgetting my sister's these features. You're like, oh, maybe she had like how her nose was shaped, or maybe how her eye was shaped or something. People tend to tell you things like this in grief, and this is the process of after grief. Okay, I tend to call it after grief, but grief is a lifelong process. But after grief is when those very heavy points are no longer like, you don't cry on a daily, but you do cry. It doesn't hit you every single day. It requires a trigger. You see, it requires a trigger, because personally, had I talk from my POV, I have days, every single day, I wake up and even in the morning, if I might not think about my mom or my sister, in the course of the day, something will happen, and I'll remember my grief. I'll be like, I wish, like, if something really nice happens, and I'm a child, I'm like, I just told my dad, but I wish I would have told my mom as well. Like, if something amazing happens in school, I'm like, I wish I'd tell my mom. I wish I'd tell, my sister. And seeing now for me how it affects me on my sister's side is seeing her age mates grow. You're looking at people, literally, the heaviest thing is watching my sister's classmates grow, because I look at them and I'm like, wait, the last time I saw you, you were like 14. What do you mean you're 20? You're 21? What do you mean you're 21? Meaning my sister would have been 21. And then, it makes you really aware of, you're also aware of your own mortality. You tend to look at things, at life, as a probability and not something secure. Grief breaks your security. It brings you out of this shell that maybe you used to live in, and it brings like some sense of purpose into life. Because if you're used to looking at life from a perspective of, whatever happens. Now, at times, grief transforms your way of thinking, and you tend to look at things like, I actually, it's not from a dark place. It's not even anything dark related, but you're like, I might actually not be here in maybe a few days or years. Who knows? Like, it's very uncertain. The best I can do is make the best of this day. And loving people. Nowadays, I'm the lover friend. I literally, like, constantly, my friends tell me at times it's weird, but I tend to tell my friends I love them. Like, you can just be like, oh, I love you, but like, I love you like subtly, but me, I can hold my friend's shoulder and I'm like, I actually love you. You need to know that I love you for who you are. And please make sure that, in whatever phase of your life, you can always have a friend. Make sure you have a friend in me. Like, I'm always here for you, because you tend to treasure relationships deeply because it shows you the use of making time with the people you have. I feel like I had enough time. No, it was not enough time, but it was quality time with the people I lost. When my mom passed away and my sister passed away, we've had we become more open. Personally, I've become more open to having new members to our family. And this obviously doesn't involve me. Of course, it involves my dad. So how I'd put it in a very short and quick way. If my dad is fulfilled, then I am fulfilled. If my dad is happy in his own way, it also extends to me. With my dad having a fulfilling relationship with someone, it doesn't mean, now from a child's POV, doesn't mean my mother is replaced. It doesn't mean if I have other siblings, they're also replaced. It just means that my dad is still getting fulfilled in his life, as most people don't like hearing it, especially if you're in the initial stages of grief. People don't like hearing it, but life does go on. Instances where people have lost spouses, who have lost siblings and stuff, especially in the spouse part, someone who you're in a relationship with, it doesn't mean you have to. Some people tend to do that. They tend to stay off relationships and embrace being single and focusing on themselves, of which the same thing could happen in a relationship. You can still focus on yourself and still have another partner. It doesn't mean that person is replaced in your being, in your life.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. One thing I love about each and every storyteller who comes on the show is just their comfort with being vulnerable, because that is such a gift for you and I. So I'm so thankful to Kathryn for just letting us in. The first thing I want you to do is to stop what you're doing and send a message to the people that you love, telling them that you love them right now. We like to think that life is so automatic, that we'll see them again, we have time. And I'm not telling you this because I want you to start rushing your living. I'm telling you this because I feel like the awareness that life is not promised means that we should be intentional about our living. Another thing this story made me think about is that it has been 13 years since my mom died. She was one of the closest people in my life, my best friend. And even with that gap, a death of a close one now, 13 years later, would still wreck me. So I just can't imagine experiencing such close deaths within 2 years. I just kept thinking, this is so unfair. This is just so unfair. But what was so refreshing is Kathryn's thoughts on grief. They are just so incredibly smart and true. I connected with each and every reflection she had on grief. But I do want to know what you connected with. So on whatever platform you're listening to this on, drop me a comment and I'm going to get back to you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode to the very end and for being part of this family. I appreciate you and I believe you have everything it takes to heal. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.